starting. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Happy Hanukkah, Chag Sameach. I hope that you've already celebrated a day of Hanukkah, and we will celebrate with you tonight for our Shabbat service. Welcome to our Cantor, Ephraim, Hererra, and of course to Alma and Wendy for some beautiful music, and many thanks to Lela for recording this service. So we're beginning on page 128, in the middle of page 128, and we're all going to sing together, accompanied by flutes, Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh of HaRachaman, Yedid Nefesh of HaRachaman, Veshocha to the blessing over the Shabbat lights. In your prayer books, we're on page 121, in the middle of page 121. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Let's continue with our readings, middle of page 124. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May the synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Let's turn to the Psalms as we welcome in the Sabbath spirit. We always begin with Psalm 95. We're on page 130 in our prayer books. Together at the bottom of the page, come, let us sing joyously to Adonai, raise a shout for a rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hand are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel, bend the knee before Adonai, our Maker. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. We continue with reading of Psalms on page 134. Sing praises to Adonai with a lyre and melodious song, with trumpets and the blast of the horn. Raise a shout before Adonai, the ruler. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the world and its inhabitants. Let the rivers clap their hands, the mountains sing joyously together at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its peoples with equity. We're doing Psalm 29. We're continuing with the beautiful melody of Psalm 29, which you'll find on page 136.
Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'ne'elim, havu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadret kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, kol Adonai behadar, kol Adonai shover ramazim, vayishaber Adonai et hazeh Lebanon, vayarkirem kemo egel, Lebanon v'Sirion, kemo ve'ereim. Kol Adonai chotzef la'avodesh, kol Adonai yachil midbar, yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, kol Adonai yecholel ayalot.
We turn the page and we'll sing together the beautiful melody Lecha Dodi. This poem, which was arranged in the 1500s by the Safat Kabbalists in northern Israel. It is a alphabetical acrostic, and it was composed by Shlomo Alkabetz, one of the great Spanish mystical writers in the late 1500s.
Shamor
the bottom of page 139. Let's continue with the Chatzi Kaddish, which marks the end of the Psalms and the beginning of the essential prayers that lead us to the Shema Yisrael. We're on page 144. Page 144, and we'll sing with our cantor the Chatzi Kaddish. Beit Yisrael, Agala, Agala, Umizman Karim, Vimeru, Amen. Eshmei Rabban Barach, Olam Yomel Maya, Yitzarach, Yitzarach, Vishtabach, Yibar V'Ramon V'Naseh, together the call to worship, the Baruch Hu, on 146. Let's all rise and sing together, page 146.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMvorach,
Baruch Adonai HaMvorach, Le'olam Va'ed. Reading together, we're in the middle of 148, the first blessing. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim. The second blessing on 150, giving thanks to God for the gift of Torah and the commandments. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We join our voices together with our cantor, the Shema Yisrael, on the next page.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Let's all be seated and be comfortable. We continue with the words from Deuteronomy chapter 6, We're on top of page 154, first in the Hebrew and then the English. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha beveitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shachbecha v'kumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafod mein enecha. Uktabtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. Leman tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem, me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Press them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. So we turn to the beautiful melody for Mi Chamocha. We're on page 158 in the prayer book. So we come to this magnificent blessing in the middle of the service. It's called the Hashkivenu, which means let us lie down in peace. We're on page 160 in the prayer book. We have a flute duet with our cantor. Clarinet and flute.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, ve'ha'amidenu malkeinu lechayim.
Let's read together. We're on 161, the top of the page, 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace, rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporeh sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. So we continue with more music with the words of Vishamru. From the book of Exodus, we're on the top of page 162. This is a reminder to keep the Sabbath, observe the Sabbath, and for it is an eternal contract. It is an eternal covenant between God and the Jewish people.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל אותי לעולם, בני ובני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Let's turn the page and we come to the 7 blessings of the Tefillah, the essential blessings of this Sabbath evening service. We're on 164, and if you're able and comfortable, please stand and sing with us, or else relax in the comfort of your living rooms. We're on 164.
Adonai sefatai tikva ufi agiti latecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Elokim v'Elokeinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VeHaNorah, Elyon Gomer Chasodim Tovim, Vekoneh HaKol, Vezocher Hasnei Avot U'Nahor, U'Meir Olam L'Bneihem, Nemad Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshe U'Magem, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. ומדור
third blessing we read together on 171, top of the page. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed. And we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Let's be seated, please. We're reading together on 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Together on top of page 175. Ever-present One, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayers, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shalotcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. The blessing of thanks, the modim, the blessing of thanksgiving together, top of page 177. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. So we come to the Shalom Rab, the seventh prayer, the seventh blessing, asking God to bring peace to the land of Israel, to the people of Israel, and to all the peoples of this earth. We're on 178.
imre fi vegion libi lefanecha Adonai tzori Adonai tzori vegoli
So we pause for a moment before I talk with you about Hanukkah and this special spirit of this Sabbath. We want to think of our loved ones, our family, dear friends, congregants all over the country, folks in need of a special blessing of strength and healing. The blessing is on page 371. And I mention a few dear friends and family members, and then ask if there are any others who wish to be remembered on this Shabbat. We think of Cantor Ephraim's dad, Hererra. We think of our own congregants, Arlene Vinnick and Flo Vinnick, Doreen Herdig, Lynn Kelly, Helen Fine. Also, dear friends of Lila's, Curtis Stevenson and Ruth Ellen Lynch, Bonnie Cantor, my mother-in-law, as well. Any other names?
Mishra Soloway.
Mishra Soloway. So let's sing together. Let's lift up our voices and ask God to watch over everyone, especially our dear ones in need of strengthening. Page 371.
Misherach avotenu Mekor habracha imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misherach imotenu Mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So this is Shabbat Hanukkah, but as everyone knows in the Jewish world, whenever we come to the Sabbath, we also read the famous Torah story of Joseph and his brothers. The last 13 chapters of Genesis are a mini novella, as it were, all about the story of Joseph and his family. It's called Vayeshev, which means he dwelled. His father dwelled in the land. And when the rabbis say, whenever you put down your roots, your anchor into the land, it may portend tsuris. It may portend headaches, which is exactly what happens in chapter 37 of Genesis. So, as you know, Joseph is the dreamer par excellence. He's a young teenager, and the story begins with two great dreams. First is the dream that he imagines that he's in the fields, in the land, and sheaves of wheat are bound up, and then they are literally bowing down to him. He tells this to his siblings. They're not thrilled. His second dream, of course, is that he says to his father, I dreamt that the sun, moon, and stars bowed down to me. His father hears this dream and says, what are you talking about? You believe that your mother and myself and your 11 siblings are going to bow down to you? Because he mentions the stars, meaning the 11 heavenly bodies that were known at that time. And Joseph is quiet. His father rebukes him. But what does this tell us? What are these dreams all about? From what I would call a Kabbalistic point of view, the first dream is about the material world. It's about agriculture. It's about the produce of the land, and he imagines that somehow these sheaves of wheat are literally prostrating themselves to him. The rabbis say this is the world we live in, the physical material existence that we have to deal with day by day. What is the second dream? It's a dream really where we're lifting up our eyes towards heaven. Joseph is thinking more about the spiritual realm. It's not that he believes his father and mother are going to bow down to him. He's acknowledging, so to speak, that the divine, the spiritual realm is even more important than the physical material existence that you and I have to battle with all the time. We know from this story that God is favoring Joseph. He's always kind of looking out for Joseph. In fact, when Joseph gets in trouble a little bit later in this Torah portion, and he has to start interpreting dreams for other people, like Potiphar, he doesn't say, I'm so smart, I got a PhD in psychology, let me tell you what the dream is all about. He says, the Almighty will give us a solution. He always acknowledges the Lord above, who will help him interpret these dilemmas, these dreams. The rabbis say God favored him, yes, and Joseph, so to speak, favored God. In the Torah it says Joseph talked about God all the time. What does that mean? It means not that he was mumbling or praying all the time, it means that he had the intuition to know that God was with him, God was guiding him, and he needed to give thanks to the Almighty for the fact that he had been literally extricated from some very difficult situations that he fell into. Remember, with Potiphar's family, Mrs. Potiphar accused him of all kinds of egregious things. Next thing you know, Joseph's back in prison. But God always lifts him up. God helps him get out of prison. So what does that have to do with Hanukkah? As I said, we always read this story in the midst of the Hanukkah week. I would say the following, that the lights of Hanukkah are a reflection of the divine reality that we live in, and they're also, as wax, they're part of the material substance that we all have to deal with day by day. And the Hanukkah lights are sometimes known as the hidden lights, because in the Kabbalah it says, Genuz hanerot, the lights are hidden, meaning that when the world was created, there were shards of divine reality that literally were embedded into our physical world. They're called in Hebrew nitzitzot. It's an unusual Hebrew word. What are we supposed to do with those shards, those remnants of divinity that are embedded not just in human beings, but also in the world of nature? We are supposed to grab them, we're supposed to pull them up, we're supposed to take them out of our own hearts and use them for a good purpose. We're supposed to take the light of the Hanukkah menorah, which is part of those shards of light that came at the day of creation, and fashion with those illuminations, courage, dedication, perseverance, the willingness to do better, the willingness to do good for other people. Hanukkah, as you know, I used to tell my friends in West Texas, is not about presents. It's not about the Jewish version of Christmas. In fact, when I was a kid, my parents always said, you get one present the first night, and if you're a good child, you will get one more present the last night. So we tried really hard to be good that week so we could get a present on the 8th day. Hanukkah comes from that word dedication.
in Hebrew, chinuch, which means to dedicate ourselves. What I'm trying to say is Joseph was dedicated to God in his own way, and we, in this Hanukkah season, have to dedicate ourselves a little more to God's purpose in this world. When we light the lamps, we're illuminating the hidden sparks that rest within our own soul, within our own heart. And we have to take those sparks and, as I said, use them in the best possible way. People, as you know, during this past 6, 8, 10 months have been lamenting about our world. It's as if the light of inspiration, the light of God, was extinguished since the pandemic began. But that's not really the case. It's not the case at all. What has happened on a spiritual level, I would argue, is that we have to find those hidden lights, those hidden sparks within ourselves, and make use of them now, even in a time that is materially difficult for so many people. We have to lift up our spirit. When we do that, we're really lifting up God into our world and bringing greater goodness into our world. So I hope you will share that vision with me this week and light your Chanukias, your Hanukkah menorahs. We'll do that in a few moments, and take that light and enjoy it. Shabbat Shalom. So we have a couple of fantastic Hanukkah melodies that Cantor Ephraim has prepared with the help of Alma and Wendy.
And you too.
Oh, yes, I was singing with you also. Which is the first?
We're going to start off with Light One Candle. And Rabbi, do you know what page it is?
In your prayer books,
671.
671, towards the back of the Sidurim, page 671. You can sing with us.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children. Give thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when the right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, the anger of terror apart. Light one candle to bind us together with peace as the song in our heart. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly that we keep alive in the flame? What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out we're not dying in vain? We have come this far, always believing that justice will somehow prevail. This is the burden, and this is the promise, and this is what we will not fail.
And the next piece we're going to do, we're going to enter my world a little bit, and we're going to do a Sephardi tune. This is in the Ladino, and as you know, Ladino is the equivalent of, well, Spanish and some Hebrew mixed in, and it's like what the Ashkenazi Jews would speak, the Yiddish, and the Sephardi Jews would speak Ladino, like my mother would speak it, and my grandparents spoke this language. And the composer of this is Flora Jagoda, and I met her, I didn't meet her, but I heard her in concert in Massachusetts some years ago, and she was wonderful. And she talked about buñuelos and customs of the Sephardi people during Hanukkah, and buñuelos are this tasty treat that we used to have with cinnamon and sugar. It's equivalent to like churros, I think that Mexicans have these days. So anyway, this song is called Ocho Candelicas. 1, 2, 3, 4 Hanukkah linda está aquí, 8 candelas para mí. Hanukkah linda está aquí, 8 candelas para mí. 8 candelas para mí. Muchas fiestas voy a hacer, con alegrías y placer. Muchas fiestas voy a hacer, con alegrías y placer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candelas para mí. Many parties I will have, with happiness and pleasure, and little pastries I will eat, filled with almonds and honey. 8 candelas para mí. Cha, cha, cha.
Thank you for that great Hanukkah music. This Sunday morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, we'll be on Zoom. Everyone is welcome from the congregation. We have our annual meeting to talk about the progress of Beit Tikva, all the challenges we have to deal with for the coming year, and approving the slate of officers and the new board members and our budget. So please look at your computer and tune in around 10 o'clock to join us for this meeting. Thank you again to Cantor Ephraim, Wendy, Alma for great music today. And thanks to Ted and Joel who are with us as well in our congregation. And we will be doing, of course, Shabbat next Shabbat as well. Hanukkah ends, by the way, this coming Thursday evening. So 8 nights of Hanukkah, and in a few moments we'll light the Hanukkah menorah. Let's go to our closing prayers on page 586. Page 586. The prayer is the the Aleinu, and it's towards the bottom of the page.
עלינו לשבח להודות הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא ספרנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים, ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
We turn to our closing prayer and think of our loved ones in death and in life. They are still with us. On this Sabbath of Hanukkah, we recall with love and devotion those whose lives have been a blessing to us. Their yard site being observed from this day, this Friday, till next Friday. Naomi Becker, dear friend of our congregation and former member for many, many years. Leon Cohen, father of Larry Cohen. Stanley Fram, father of Laura Cowan. Israel Goldman, father of John Goldman. Hal Landers, brother of Phyllis Kapp. Frances Rosenberg, mother of Stuart Rosenberg. Isidore Waxlander, the father of Phyllis Kapp. And William Young, father of Sandy Levine. May their memory always be a blessing for all of us. We're on page 598 for the Kaddish prayer. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah v'yamad yivrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayei chon of yomei chon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala b'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mavarach le'olam lomei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach ba'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei b'kudsha b'richu le'elam mikol birchata b'shirata tushbechata b'nechemata tamiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. U'aseh shalom b'mramav u'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of all brings us harmony, bring us peace to this land, to the land of Israel, Jewish people throughout the world. We say amen.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, Shalom Aleinu ve'al Yisrael.
So as you're getting ready to light your menorahs at home, remember the second night means that we place the candles in the menorah from right to left. Okay, the way everything was written in the ancient world, in the Semitic civilizations. But here's our shamash. Of course, the worker candle keeps everyone going. But when we light the candles, we always light the candle that represents the night that we are celebrating. So tonight, the second night, we light
going left to right. Lots of times folks get mixed up and go the wrong way. There are all kinds of stories, and the main idea is we're adding more light each night. That's why we start with a candle that represents that evening, and we bring more light into the world. So Thursday night was the first night, and we do 3 blessings. Tonight, we do only 2 blessings. Let me find a match. Our Cantor will lead us in the 2 blessings.
Ready?
Ready?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להולידנו של חנוכה. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשה ניסים אבותינו, בימים ההם בזמן הזה. חג שמח.
Chag Sameach. Before we go and say L'chaim, I want to ask the Cantor to lead us in the Kiddush.
Yes. Stay right there and I'll do it.
Okay. The words for the blessing of the wine are on page 123.
סוברים על עולם רבותיי, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושמרנו על שמו באהבה ורצון, הנחילנו, זיכרונו למעשה בראשית. כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא זכר יציאת מצרים. קיבלנו בחרת, אותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך לאהבה ורצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים טובים.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.